They look like a fairy tale written for the age of algorithms. The world's most famous teen superhero falls for the girl who refuses to be anyone's stereotype. Together they glide across premieres and magazine covers with the ease of a duet, their laughter caught by telephoto lenses, their glances replayed in endless loops on social feeds. We know this story, or at least we think we do, because Hollywood is expert at giving us endings before we've even understood the first act. But look closer at the seams. What happens when two ascendant careers move at different speeds on different continents under different contracts, while millions of strangers feel entitled to a daily update on something as private as love? What happens when a studio press tour demands chemistry on cue, while a real relationship demands silence, boundaries, and room to breathe? The public rewards openness. Intimacy often survives on mystery. That paradox is a pressure cooker. Behind every curated photograph is a choice: appear or disappear, confirm or refuse, smile or sidestep. And behind those choices are questions neither headline nor hashtag can answer. How do you draw a line between performance and personhood when the role that made you a star is the same role that made you too a phenomenon? How do you protect the fragile things, trust, time, truth, when the internet keeps score? This isn't a tabloid tale. It's a modern experiment in love under surveillance, a romance built in the bright light of a shared franchise, then tested in the shadows where careers, ambitions, families, and private fears collide. Are they Hollywood's perfect couple, or are we just seeing the most flattering angle? Before their names became hashtags and their faces appeared on billboards from Los Angeles to London, Zendaya and Tom Holland were simply two children shaped by families, neighborhoods, and circumstances that seemed a world apart. Their early lives would quietly mold the resilience and contradictions that later defined them, not only as artists, but as individuals trying to love beneath the glare of Hollywood's brightest lights. Zendaya Mary Sturmer Coleman was born on September 1, 1996, in Oakland, California. The youngest of 6 children, she grew up in a household where culture and discipline were intertwined. Her father, a teacher and stage manager, nurtured her appreciation for performance, while her mother instilled values of education and responsibility. Yet Oakland was not a city of easy dreams. Crime, economic struggle, and the challenges of navigating biracial identity meant that Zendaya had to learn balance at an early age, how to move between different worlds while remaining true to herself. She trained as a dancer, appeared in local theater productions, and learned that entertainment was not merely play, but a craft that demanded rigor. Across the Atlantic, on June 1, 1996, Thomas Stanley Holland was born in Kingston-upon-Thames, England. His upbringing was comfortable, supported by a creative family, his mother a photographer, his father a comedian and writer. Unlike Zendaya's urban edges, Tom's childhood carried a suburban rhythm, where discipline came through gymnastics and dance classes. At school, he faced teasing for his interest in ballet, but those taunts became a crucible of determination. By the age of 12, he was starring in Billy Elliot the Musical on London's West End, a role that required not just talent, but the stamina to shoulder adult responsibilities while still a boy. Though oceans apart, both children experienced the unique pressure of being different. Zendaya, a tall, striking biracial girl navigating an industry that often demanded conformity. Tom, a boy who chose pirouettes over football in a culture that prized traditional masculinity. Each carried early lessons in resilience, discipline, and the quiet ache of being underestimated. What they did not yet know was that these parallel journeys, shaped by geography, culture, and family, would converge years later on the set of a superhero film. But before that meeting, they would first have to prove themselves as more than prodigies, stepping into the often merciless world of entertainment, where the applause of youth can vanish as quickly as it arrives. The journey from gifted children to recognized performers was neither smooth nor guaranteed. Hollywood has a habit of chewing up young talent, leaving them stranded in the shadows of early fame. For Zendaya and Tom Holland, the beginnings of their professional lives were marked by risk, rejection, and the relentless pressure to prove they were more than just promising faces. Zendaya's first taste of recognition came through Disney Channel's Shake It Up in 2010, where she played Rocky Blue, a confident dancer with a flair for style. It was a typical Disney formula: bright costumes, laugh tracks, and endless rehearsals. But behind the glitter, Zendaya was already strategizing. Unlike many child stars who surrendered fully to the Disney machine, she kept one foot firmly planted in her own identity. She turned down roles she felt were stereotypes, pushed for more control over her career, and even at 15, negotiated contracts with a maturity that stunned executives. This discipline helped her avoid the pitfalls that had derailed so many Disney alumni before her. By her late teens, she was appearing on Dancing with the Stars, releasing music, and slowly preparing for the leap into more serious acting. Tom's path was carved out of sweat and stage lights. Cast in Billy Elliot the Musical at just 12, he spent years perfecting grueling choreography while learning how to hold an audience in the palm of his hand. The role demanded not just technical skill, but emotional depth, portraying a working-class boy's struggle to dance against societal expectations. That experience hardened him, teaching resilience under pressure and stamina that would serve him when Hollywood came calling. But once he left the stage, the uncertainty of film auditions awaited. His breakout came in 2012 when he played a terrified son in the disaster drama The Impossible, a performance so raw that it drew praise from critics and put his name on casting directors' lists. By their late teens, both Zendaya and Tom were standing at critical crossroads. Zendaya, determined to shed the Disney Girl label, fought for roles that would allow her to be taken seriously. Tom, fresh from stage acclaim, navigated the transition into film, a leap many theater prodigies never make successfully. What linked them was the same quiet hunger to prove that their talent was not confined to a niche, but expansive enough to define a generation. Neither could yet imagine how their professional paths would collide in the sprawling machinery of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But the seeds were planted. Zendaya had the charisma, Tom had the grit, and both had tasted enough of the industry to understand that survival required more than talent. It demanded strategy, resilience, and perhaps a partner who understood exactly what that meant. For both Zendaya and Tom Holland, the turning point was not a single role, but a perfect storm of opportunities that collided at just the right time. By the mid-2010s, they had already carved respectable paths for themselves, Zendaya transitioning out of her Disney image, Tom breaking free from the child actor box. Yet when Marvel cast Tom as the new Spider-Man and brought Zendaya into the fold, their worlds and their lives shifted into an orbit neither could escape. Tom's ascension began in 2015 when Marvel Studios announced that a young, relatively unknown actor from England would inherit the mantle of Spider-Man. The decision was bold. Previous iterations had been older, more polished, but Tom embodied the awkward, quick-witted teenager that comic fans had longed to see. His debut in Captain America: Civil War 2016 electrified audiences. In just a few minutes of screen time, Tom stole the spotlight. Critics hailed him as the most authentic Peter Parker to date, and Marvel placed him at the center of a multi-film contract. Overnight, he went from promising newcomer to global superstar. Zendaya's rise was subtler but no less seismic. In Spider-Man: Homecoming 2017, she played Michelle M.J. Jones, a sarcastic outsider whose wit cut through the glossy high school setting. Though her role was secondary, her screen presence was undeniable. She refused to play MJ as a typical love interest, instead giving her edge, independence, and a modern sensibility. Fans noticed. Suddenly, Zendaya was no longer just a Disney alum, she was a serious actress stepping into one of the world's most successful franchises. The film's global success created a cultural phenomenon. Spider-Man: Homecoming grossed over $880 million worldwide, and its sequels pushed beyond the billion-dollar mark. As the MCU grew, so too did the public fascination with its young stars. Magazine covers, late-night interviews, and endless red carpet appearances cemented Zendaya and Tom not only as rising talents, but as Hollywood's favorite pairing. Their chemistry on screen, playful, awkward, sincere, spilled into real life, sparking rumors that fans couldn't stop obsessing over. Whether or not they confirmed it, the image of Tom and Zendaya became a brand unto itself. Yet their rise extended far beyond Marvel. Tom pursued diverse roles to avoid typecasting. The survival drama The Lost City of Z, the gritty Cherry directed by the Russo brothers, and the action film Uncharted, which tested his ability to lead a blockbuster outside the superhero suit. Some choices stumbled, others impressed, but each project showcased his ambition to expand beyond Spider-Man's shadow. Zendaya, meanwhile, catapulted to new heights with HBO's Euphoria. Her portrayal of Rue Bennett, a troubled teenager battling addiction, was raw, devastating, and unlike anything she had done before. In 2020, she became the youngest woman ever to win the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series. Critics declared her one of the finest actresses of her generation. From fashion runways to activist platforms, she commanded attention not just as an entertainer, but as a cultural force. When she later starred in Dune alongside Timothée Chalamet, she bridged blockbuster science fiction and art house credibility, proving her versatility was boundless. By the early 2020s, Zendaya and Tom stood at the pinnacle of young Hollywood. Together, they were a symbol of glamour and relatability, the kind of stars who could headline billion-dollar franchises yet still seem approachable. Their joint appearances, playfully teasing each other in interviews, holding hands as paparazzi cameras clicked, only fueled the public imagination. They were cast not only as actors, but as a modern fairy tale couple. In a culture obsessed with romance, their relationship became both an extension of their careers and a narrative in itself. But the glory came with costs. Every triumph brought new scrutiny. Every box office record raised the stakes for what came next. And as their careers accelerated, the question lingered. Could their personal bond withstand the same relentless pressures that had broken so many Hollywood couples before them? The spotlight had given them power, prestige, and unprecedented influence. Yet hidden within the glow were cracks invisible to the cheering crowds. Because in Hollywood, the rise is always dazzling and always the precursor to the shadows waiting just beyond.
Every Hollywood love story is framed as a fantasy. But fantasies, when replayed in headlines and dissected by millions of eyes, become fragile things. For Zendaya and Tom Holland, the glow of success came with the suffocating reality of life under constant surveillance, a pressure that tested not only their careers, but also the very relationship that fans adored. From the beginning, their pairing was never just two people in love. It was a commodity. Studios leaned into their chemistry to market the Spider-Man films. Late-night hosts prodded them for romantic confessions, and social media turned every handhold, glance, or pause into viral content. What might have been private moments for any other couple became global events. And when the public is invited into a relationship, it also claims the right to speculate, criticize, and demand proof of happiness. Rumors followed them like shadows. In 2019, whispers of Zendaya's closeness with Euphoria co-star Jacob Elordi sparked tabloids into overdrive, painting a picture of betrayal and love triangles. Around the same time, Tom was spotted with another actress in London, fueling stories of a split. Neither Zendaya nor Tom confirmed anything, but the headlines planted seeds of doubt. Were they still together? Were they on a break? The questions multiplied, even when their work schedules, grueling filming commitments on opposite sides of the world, offered the simplest explanation for their distance. Beyond gossip, there were deeper tensions. Both were ascending rapidly, but not always in sync. Zendaya was commanding critical acclaim, fashion campaigns, and Emmy recognition, while Tom was wrestling with the pressure of carrying a billion-dollar franchise and proving he could thrive outside of Spider-Man's suit. Success, paradoxically, threatened to pull them apart. Their careers demanded different continents, different lifestyles, and different emotional investments. The very spotlight that introduced them also magnified the natural frictions of balancing love with ambition. Cultural differences added another layer. Zendaya, an American woman of mixed African-American and European descent, had long spoken about the challenges of representation and responsibility in Hollywood. Tom, a white British man raised in suburban comfort, admired her activism, but sometimes seemed uneasy navigating that same terrain in interviews. Though subtle, these contrasts highlighted how their background shaped them in ways that didn't always align. Then came the curse of Hollywood couples. For decades, tabloids have chronicled the implosion of romances forged under the studio lights. Brad and Angelina, Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart, countless others. Fans wondered, were Tom and Zendaya destined for the same fate? Each time they went weeks without being seen together, speculation reignited. Each vague answer in interviews was parsed like a code. The scrutiny wasn't just invasive, it was corrosive, turning private emotions into public currency. Even their attempts at privacy became controversial. When Zendaya told fans she wanted to keep her relationship sacred, some accused her of being aloof. When Tom admitted in an interview that fame was exhausting and he dreamed of stepping away, fans interpreted it as a hidden cry about his relationship. Neither could win. In protecting themselves, they were accused of hiding secrets. In opening up, they risked being misunderstood. This constant cycle of adoration and suspicion created the paradox at the heart of their love story. The more perfect they appeared, the more audiences demanded evidence of imperfection. Hollywood adored them as a dream couple, yet Hollywood also thrives on cracks in the dream. And in those cracks, whispers of jealousy, conflicting schedules, diverging ambitions, the narrative of hidden drama began to grow. By the early 2020s, Zendaya and Tom had built an empire of influence. But behind the curated images was a quieter struggle to love each other as human beings, not as characters in a public fairy tale. For two young stars still finding their place in an unforgiving industry, that might have been the greatest challenge of all.
For a time, it seemed as though Zendaya and Tom Holland could withstand anything. They had conquered Marvel, charmed fans worldwide, and carefully protected the parts of their relationship they considered sacred. But Hollywood has a way of wearing down even the strongest defenses. The same cameras that once celebrated their love eventually began to capture the silences between them. The same headlines that praised them as a perfect couple began to question why they were no longer seen together as often. By 2022, signs of strain surfaced. Paparazzi photos revealed long stretches of absence, fueling whispers of a breakup. Tabloids pounced on the narrative. Were their careers pulling them apart? Zendaya was entrenched in the demanding production schedule of Euphoria and major film projects like Dune Part 2. Tom, meanwhile, openly admitted to feeling overwhelmed by fame, confessing in interviews that he longed for a simpler life, away from the relentless cycle of premieres and publicity. For fans, his honesty was refreshing. For gossip columns, it was evidence of cracks. The weight of expectation also played its part. Being branded as Hollywood's dream couple meant that any hint of trouble felt like betrayal, not just to each other, but to the millions who had invested emotionally in their story. When Tom announced a temporary break from social media to protect his mental health, speculation ignited. Was he stepping back from fame or from Zendaya? Every absence was amplified, every silence treated as confirmation of tragedy. Privately, the challenge was even greater. The distance imposed by clashing schedules left little time for ordinary intimacy. Their attempts to meet in between projects became fleeting, interrupted by cameras waiting at airports and hotels. Friends and colleagues whispered about the pressure. Two young stars at the height of their careers, each carrying the burden of extraordinary expectation, trying to preserve something fragile in the middle of chaos. In truth, no one outside their inner circle could know the reality. But perception often matters more than fact in Hollywood. And perception was turning. Where once they were idolized, now they were questioned. The narrative of a perfect fairy tale had shifted to one of impending heartbreak. This was the tragedy of their love story. Not a dramatic betrayal or explosive scandal, but the slow erosion of privacy, trust, and freedom under the crushing weight of global attention. They had not only fallen in love with each other, but also into a spotlight that never dimmed. And as history has shown, that spotlight rarely allows love to survive unscathed.
Whether together or apart, Zendaya and Tom Holland have already left an imprint larger than their individual careers. They did more than play characters in a blockbuster franchise. They embodied a generational ideal of love in the age of constant exposure. For millions of fans, theirs was the story of two talented outsiders who found each other in the chaos of Hollywood and proved that tenderness could still exist in a world ruled by contracts, box office numbers, and Instagram feeds. If their relationship endures, it will stand as a rare testament to loyalty in an industry where romances collapse under the weight of fame. If it falters, it will remain a cautionary tale of how the glare of celebrity can corrode even the most genuine bond. Either outcome reveals the same truth. Their story is not just about two people, but about the impossible expectations we project onto them. They have become a mirror reflecting our hunger for fairy tales, our obsession with drama, and our fear that love cannot survive the spotlight. As artists, their legacies are undeniable. Zendaya has already redefined what it means to transition from child star to respected actress, her performances earning critical acclaim and cultural influence. Tom has reshaped Spider-Man for a new era, while striving to expand beyond the suit that made him famous. Together, they symbolize the intersection of personal vulnerability and professional triumphs. The final judgment on their relationship may never be ours to know, but the impact of Zendaya and Tom Holland on screen, in fashion, in culture, will linger. Hollywood will remember them not only as performers, but as the couple who dared to live, love, and stumble under the world's most unforgiving gaze.
Behind every red carpet smile lies a story far more complicated than the cameras ever capture. Zendaya and Tom Holland's romance has been celebrated, dissected, doubted, and defended, turning two young actors into symbols of love under impossible pressure. Yet the truth remains elusive, tucked away behind closed doors where only they know what is real. So we ask you, is theirs truly a fairy tale, or simply Hollywood's most convincing performance? Can love endure in the brightest spotlight, or does fame inevitably rewrite the ending? Share your thoughts below. We want to know what you believe hides beyond the red carpet. And if you want to continue exploring the secrets, scandals, and untold stories of Hollywood's brightest stars, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us on the next journey into the shadows of fame.